One day, oceanographer Tom and his family, his wife Julia, and their two kids, Cassie and Ben, decided to go on a yacht trip in the Caribbean Sea. As Tom and Ben enjoyed fishing and Cassie stayed glued to her gadget, Julia took a refreshing swim. But then, out of nowhere, something strange caught her attention. Julia glances around, but the sea looks just as calm as before. However, she can't shake off a feeling of fear, like something big and dangerous is lurking nearby. Meanwhile, the instruments on the yacht begin to malfunction, but Tom is too focused on fishing to notice anything unusual. Meanwhile, Julia starts feeling even worse and soon finds herself struggling to stay afloat. She cries out for help, but her family doesn't hear her. The water seems to move, driving her further away from the yacht. As things get worse, Tom finally hears Julia's cries for help. He quickly runs to the helm and steers the yacht toward where she is. Without wasting any time, Tom dives into the water to save her. With the kids' help, they manage to pull Julia back on the yacht and bring her back to consciousness. Tom is upset because he always reminds everyone to let others know before swimming. Julia apologizes, and before long, the incident is soon forgotten. Besides, the family has something special to celebrate. It's their son Ben's 13th birthday today. Tom lights the candles on the cake and everyone cheers for Ben. He gets some gifts and Cassie snaps a group photo of the smiling family. At that moment, Cassie gets a call from her boyfriend. He asks her how the swim went, but suddenly, a loud and fierce storm starts in the background. Cassie feels concerned, but her boyfriend tells her not to worry, assuring her that he's okay. The call suddenly cuts off. Cassie quickly tells her parents about the storm on land, but before they can react, the yacht begins to shake. They rush to the deck and are shocked to see huge whales floating around the yacht. Tom explains that storms can sometimes confuse whales, but these ones are dangerously close, pushing the yacht and putting them all at risk. Tom dives into the water but comes back injured. He cut himself on the propeller while checking things out. Julia stitches up his shoulder and Tom explains that the yacht's shafts are probably bent from a whale's tail hitting it. Now it looks like they won't be able to sail away. Cassie later tries to reconnect, but there's no signal. Even the radio isn't picking up anything. Tom starts calculating their supplies. They have enough water for about 4 days, but since they're on a shipping route, someone should find them soon. However, strange noises come from outside, and when the family steps onto the deck, they see glowing objects falling from the sky. The objects fall closer and closer, and Tom, taking a chance, starts the engine. He steers the yacht away from one meteorite, but the engine gives out. The next object falls so close that the family realizes they are looking at artificial satellites from Earth. A strong wind begins to blow, and the instruments go crazy. The frightened family hides inside the yacht as it's thrown around by the waves. They put on life jackets, bracing for the worst when a strange ringing sound fills the air, causing nosebleeds and nausea. Tom fires a flare gun to signal for help, but it's useless. The family barely makes it through the night. In the morning, they're relieved to be alive, but there's a huge hole in the yacht's side, leaving them wondering how they're still afloat. The family steps outside and is stunned. The water has vanished, and their yacht is now stranded on a rocky outcrop in the middle of a barren desert where the ocean used to be. Later, Tom tries to comfort his family, saying not everyone could have been lost. He takes some measurements and realizes the compass is wrong. North isn't where it should be. This means the Earth's poles have shifted. This has happened on Earth before, but a very long time ago. The sea has shifted to where land once was, and it's likely most of humanity is gone. Cassie can't handle the truth and runs to the cabin, asking to be left alone. Julia checks their remaining supplies while Ben releases colorful balloons, hoping someone will spot them. Meanwhile, Tom sends out distress signals on the radio. Suddenly, he hears a reply. It's Maodo, the captain of a small submersible. Maodo explains that they were deep underwater during the disaster, which is why they survived. But all communication systems are down and help isn't coming. Based on his calculations, the sea will return in about a week and it will be violent. He advises them to move to higher ground and stay safe. Julia tells the kids to pack their things. Tom asks the captain if he can rescue the children. Maodo explains that his submersible is too small for that. Unfortunately, Naoto's partner has died and he can only take one person. After some convincing, Tom gets Maodo to agree to take both kids and gives him their location. Tom then maps out a course, promising to reach the spot in a few days. The next morning, the family is nearly ready to start their journey. Tom steps onto the deck and spots a man with a dog approaching. He walks over to greet him but quickly realizes the man is injured. He offers the travelers some water. The man drinks it and suddenly punches Tom in the face. Julia sees this and rushes over, but the traveler stabs Tom in the chest with a makeshift spear. The dog keeps Julia away, and she freezes in shock. Knowing she can't save Tom, she runs to the yacht. The man chases after her, wounding her arm. Meanwhile, the killer tries to break down the doors and eventually succeeds, Julia hides in the bathroom, tending to her wound. The intruder heads straight to the galley, grabbing food. It's clear he's starving. With a can of food in hand, the man starts searching the yacht. Julia grabs a kitchen knife for protection. When he enters the cabin, she jumps overboard and hides beneath the yacht. The killer looks through the hole but doesn't see her. However, the dog attacks Julia, forcing her to kill it. Hearing the yelp, the man goes outside and finds the dog's body. Meanwhile, Julia sneaks back onto the yacht through the portholes on the other side. She falls right into the killer's grasp. He beats her, throws her onto a couch, and begins choking her. Cassie sees it all and knows it's time for the last resort. She opens the locker and shoots the man. The shot knocks him aside, but the flare ignites the yacht. Julia tells the kids to escape while she slips into the galley. The injured killer tries to attack again, but Julia kicks him away, grabs the bags, and jumps overboard. Ben discovers his father's body and Cassie runs to it, sobbing. Julia kisses her deceased husband, but when she sees the killer jump from the burning yacht, she grabs the kids and flees. The yacht explodes behind them. They run through the desert and find shelter in a rocky canyon with a flowing stream. But the water is salty and undrinkable. Cassie offers her brother a little water, but he refuses, feeling guilty. He thinks the killer came because of the balloons he released. Cassie mentions the same thought, but Julia firmly tells her to stop, defending Ben, saying he meant no harm. She urges the kids to stay strong as a long journey lies ahead. Then she spots the killer again, still following them. The family moves quickly. That evening, Ben finds a dead hammerhead shark and tries to cut it up, but Julia spots the pursuer and tells the kids to run. They soon reach a field of toxic waste barrels, but Julia pushes them to keep going, aware the killer is still chasing them. The family walks across the dry ocean floor, passing piles of plastic and trash left by humans. Julia notices Ben is badly dehydrated and gives him the last drops of water. Cassie breaks down, feeling hopeless, but Julia firmly tells them to keep going. Eventually, they find an old plane's body that crashed into the sea years ago and crawl inside to rest. Julia looks at their last family photo and recalls how she first met Tom when he was brought to her hospital with decompression sickness after a dive. The children cry, remembering their father and saying their final goodbyes. During the night, Cassie hears a noise and steps outside to sit by the plane. The killer approaches, not knowing she's acting as bait. Just as he moves to grab her, Julia ambushes him, stabbing him with a knife. At dawn, the family gets ready to continue, but they find the killer's body scavenged, a sign that something worse than humans is in the desert. They press on. As Julia checks the map, Ben suddenly runs ahead. His mother shouts for him to stop, but he rushes to a salty puddle and drinks a few gulps. She pulls him away, but he soon falls ill. They find some plastic chairs and make a simple shelter from the sun, resting beneath it. Suddenly, Julia hears strange noises. She steps outside and sees something alarming, quickly waking the children. Sensing the new threat, they start running. They soon spot a large ship in the distance with scattered containers and a few people nearby. Julia calls out, but seeing giant crabs, the people rush into a container, locking the doors and ignoring her cries for help. The family climbs onto a container, but Julia is wounded in the leg by the crabs. Nevertheless, Julia, Cassie, and Ben watch as the crabs break through a crack in the doors, killing everyone inside despite their fight. Julia ties a scarf around her leg and passes out. The next morning, she wakes up alone, panicked, but soon finds the crabs are gone, and the kids are searching for food and weapons. Julia cauterizes her wound while Ben checks the weapons they found. As they search the containers, they discover a little food and water. Julia finds a radio in a dead man's pocket and contacts Naoto. He replies, explaining that he was also attacked by deep-sea creatures. He believes the sea will return soon, which is why they're surfacing. Julia pleads for him to save her children, but admits she's lost the map and doesn't know where to go. Naoto fires a flare and Ben spots the direction. The family hurries toward it. They soon see a yellow submarine in the distance, but the rough terrain of the dry seabed makes it hard to reach. Cassie isn't happy with her mom's talk about saving the kids, but Julia ignores her and pushes them forward. They have to go through a canyon filled with toxic waste. At one point, a rock slide occurs and Julia gets separated from the children. She orders them to keep going, but when Cassie refuses, she begs her to save her brother. Cassie and Ben escape the canyon and reach the submarine, but it's empty inside. Suddenly, a badly wounded Naoto appears from behind the boat. He admits he won't survive and tells them to board the submarine. But Cassie goes back for her mother, who is fighting off the crabs. Julia's ammo runs low as she kills most of the crabs, and just then, Cassie climbs the rock barrier and reaches out to her mother. They successfully make it back to the submarine, just as the crabs overtake Naoto, killing him. The family climbs inside, and at that moment, a huge ocean wave appears on the horizon. The wave lifts the submarine, dragging it over the rocks. As Julia sees the events of the past few days flash before her eyes, she passes out. When she wakes up, the submarine has come to a stop. The movie ends as Julia opens the hatch, and the family steps out to find themselves in a ruined city, brought there by the waves.